so you just want to make note to people that if we're having issues in our first night with the system itself.
Hot mics all the time.
Yeah.
Mic's warm all the time, you know. Shuffle through the papers and not too much.
I don't know how.
Don't curse under your
were
breath.
they very, like, and it's very loud. It's not worth very much. It's just somebody who's loud. Maybe.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to our regular meeting of council in person and live streamed electronically, Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. Opening of our meeting, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. So we have the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Abbas, seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that the regular meeting of council agenda dated January 17th, 2023 be approved as amended. This date to move items 8A, E, F, H, I from information to action. All in favor? It's carried. A disclosure of interest, you can disclose your interest now or at any point in time during the meeting. Minutes of our previous meeting, moved by Councillor Crabtree, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council, December 20th, 2022, be approved as circulated. All in favor? Business arising from our minutes? Okay. So next on the agenda is our delegation for this evening, Perth and Smith Falls District Hospital Core Capital Campaign. Michael Cohen, President and CEO. So welcome.
Thank you for making time to chat with me today. Is it okay if I adjust that?
Is it on? Is the red light on?
It is now. So the purpose of my my talk today was just to give you an update on how things are going at the hospital, and also to ask for your support to join our Core Capital campaign. So again, we'd like to thank you for inviting us and making time. My presentation's about 10 minutes, and I have a little bit of time for questions if you have them afterwards. So I'll try and keep on track to keep you guys on time, especially with the weather outside. I'm sure everyone's eager to get out of here quickly. And again, we do see we are so close. The hospital's practically in the Montague boundary, and we really would like to see you jump in and support our Core Capital campaign, which is aimed at improving quality, safety, and innovations at your local hospital. So I guess the first thing, I've been on the job here for about a year, and it's been no other way to say it's been quite a year for us. It's nice to be able to see people in person and see that people have moved beyond the pandemic. But I have to tell you, at the hospital level and the hospital system, this might be the most challenging moment of the pandemic, when we're faced with staffing shortages, supply chain. We track over thousands of disruptions weekly in terms of supplies, equipment, and in many cases, just keeping hospital operations going on a day-to-day basis is practically a full-time job. Obviously, most of you probably heard that we're forced to close our Perth Emergency site over the summertime due to staffing, and more recently, our Mum Baby program was on hold until just a week and a half ago. Actually, we're back to delivering babies again through shortages. So this is obviously the patient load, and the mortality is reduced quite substantially. Omicron is not as deadly, which is great to be able to go in the wild in your personal lives. But at the hospital, it's probably the most challenging period for us. In spite of these challenges, we've tried to obviously keep operations going as best we can, but also look ahead to the future to talk about how do we continue to stay relevant, deal with the growing needs that are in our community that we see coming, and to keep up with the best care possible and the highest degree of safe innovations to bring forward to our community. So one of the things, when we talk about future planning, what are we talking about? And when you look at our catchment area that we serve, the growth and aging is probably putting us in the top 3 or 4 regions in the province, actually. Not so much from natural growth, because we do see that the fertility rate or new borns in our communities isn't increasing that much anymore, but from aging and migration, within the province. So we have really decided that now is the time to call to action to begin to plan, because the ministry's planning horizon for new and expanded programs like this are probably fast would be 8 years, average would be 9 to 10 for a new addition or a new service offering. So we need to start now, because we know if we don't do anything by 2930, we're going to be in deep trouble. This is a very small, I'm looking at now, it's very small, but across the bottom, it's when you take our actual activity across both our sites and you apply the population projections, you can see in 10, 20, 30 years that we're going to need to grow from, the hospital that we are today to over 215 beds to deal with the demand that's there. So this really puts a fine point on why your support's so important to us, because there's a lot of work we need to do to plan for the future. We also have a new strategic plan that focuses not just on bricks and mortar, but on improving clinical outcomes, safety, and standards of care, supporting our people, which is very important. Our physicians, nurses, and support staff have never been stretched more than they have in the past 3 years. And so we want to do everything possible to ensure that they're supported in the role that they have, and also to make sure that our hospital is sustainable into the future for our community. I'm trying to weave in some positives, because there's a lot of things that have been very challenging for us, but this is a picture of an MRI. We're going to be breaking ground for the new MRI, which will be located at our Smith Falls site. These are the blueprints. So on the right-hand side of the screen is sort of the I'll call it the 10,000 foot level, where you could see the very rough V shape at the bottom, which is the front of the hospital. And then the main entrance, if you're familiar with the campus, is on the right-hand side. So this would be on our ground level floor. We're displacing a bit of our cardiopulmonary space and putting the MRI suite there. And then on the left-hand side, that's a sort of a blow up of where the MRI suite is. MRI is an interesting project. It's about a $6 million project, which includes the acquisition of the magnet and the scanning technology, as well as all the infrastructure that's required to support an MRI. It's very different than an X-ray machine, which you just need lead-lined rooms. MRI, you need RF protection and other safety measures to protect people and objects from a very strong magnetic field. So it's a very significant project, and it does up our game in the communities to provide a level of care and service that we've historically not been able to provide. We've recently, for example, recruited a new orthopedic back surgeon and a radiologist that we've been trying to recruit for years. But as soon as we announced the MRI, it's something that was able to not only provide services to our community, but also attract the best caliber quality medical staff to be able to service our community. So it's a very exciting project for our community. So down to capital, the core capital campaign. One of the reasons I'm here is to ask you for our support in joining this program. This graph represents the rate at which our assets are being retired. So as they expire, that's the top line. And the green line, which represents the sagging green line in the middle, is the rate that we've replaced them historically from 14 up to 22. And there was a period of time, it was actually before I arrived at the hospital, where due to financial pressures and other decisions, they underinvested in capital. So what that's meant now is that not only do we have a desperate need for capital with our clinical innovation project as well as our MRI, all the stuff that have been delayed, in some cases inappropriately, are now coming due, and we can't afford not to replace them. So the need for capital in our hospital has never been stronger, which is why your support is so important to us. So our core capital campaign was a partnership with the municipalities in our what we call our primary catchment area, and that includes Montague, and it's coordinated between our foundation and the hospital. And you can see these are the municipalities that have been participating, and we'd like you to join us. The primary target, I have to say, with the situation in capital at our hospital now, we've kind of got the tiger by the tail. We need every capital dollar we can get to support all the different projects we have. The original purpose of the core capital campaign was to focus on clinical innovations, investments in technology to improve safe quality care at our hospital. So it's things from, bringing in best practices, so standards that we are adopting across our region in the best possible care, but also technology. Like, if you visit our emergency department today, you'll get the paper that's generated won't find its way to your family physician for a significant period of time because it needs to be collated, copied, and faxed over, right? That can take weeks. With some of our new systems that are part of this project that we hope you'll assist us in funding, that will be instantaneous. As soon as you're discharged, everything will be electronic and go directly to your family doctor. But also clinical equipment. So right now, if you come to our emergency department and you need antibiotics, the doctor might lean over their shoulder and say, "Hey, nurse so-and-so, can you go get 400 milligrams of clindamycin for Michael? He's got an infection in his finger or whatever." And they'll walk over to a bin, they'll search through things. It's a little more sophisticated than that, pick out a pill, put it in a thing and give it to you. And when you think of something that's pretty benign, if it ended up being the wrong piece of medicine, I'd probably survive. If it was a narcotic, if it was something potentially harmful, as a patient, as a consumer, as a member of the community, you would want there to be safety checks in place. So our future state is a dispensing cabinet that takes the electronic order through our system to a cabinet, biometrics where the nurse puts their fingerprint on it, it identifies it's the right nurse, patient's name come up, drugs come out with a barcode on it, nurse walks to the bed, scans the patient, correct patient, scans the drug, patient, drug are matched, green light, give the medication. Okay, so it's things like that obviously we can work on processes to try and improve, but our best practice managed by things like technology and equipment. So this is a very, it's about a 10-year program that we're on. Obviously, we can't ask our partners to fund it all at once because it's probably it's around a $15 million project. And the methodology that we've come up with to determine the share, which I'll show you later, that we've proposed, is based on proximity to the hospital, population, and use of the hospital. Okay, so given our current situation, this is obviously where we're trying to direct these funds, but right now, every piece of capital that we have is part of a pie. It's like it's like the Jenga puzzle, right? They all goes in to support our plan together. So everything that we can do to add more things to that base, help us. Anything that we lose threatens our entire capital plan. So my last slide, as we've worked out the formula many years ago, the contribution that we're requesting you to consider is approximately $34,500. And we humbly request that you consider our request to join our core capital campaign. And that is my last slide, and I'd be happy to take any questions that council may have.
I'll fire a couple out, if that's okay.
Sure.
I mean, as you already probably know, like Montague has been a little bit of an outliner or maybe a hold up on this. And I mean, I guess a couple of reasons, I guess. First one is that we inquired about where is this being done at other places in the province. And the answers that we've gotten back so far is that it's not being done anywhere else in the province. That this is sort of this area's idea. And we were curious of like, if there was other examples around the province that maybe that was contributing towards that. One of the backside of it for myself is that the hospital is funded from the province. It's under a government jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And when we step in as a municipality and start using taxpayer money, yep. My question at that point was, is it a grant or is it a tax levy against the taxpayers that we already have? So that was the biggest hurdle that I had, where how do we jump over that hurdle to say that it's not really a grant to a other publicly funded entity. It's kind of a tax levy side of it too as well. I don't know if I've gotten very far with that, and the fact that most municipalities, I think, have stepped up to, and the county has done that because they see that as a good thing. And I think the other side of it too, as well, is that I don't have any disagreement that the hospitals have a bad model and a bad formula that need to have more funding. I think the funding is needed. I'd like to see this sort of cleared up a little bit more, and
Okay.
also maybe a little bit more understanding as far as how do we get there without, because my next worry then is that you have the province looking down going, oh, look at municipalities will kick in. Is that making the funding model a bigger problem? Or is this a path to success?
Okay.
So I guess that's my question, concern. I don't know if you know if this is starting to be applied in other places around the province.
Yep.
Or not, or
Yeah, so I'll go, it's kind of in reverse, in your comment and support for the general support for the hospital. I just want to thank you. I think we can use all the support we get, so thank you for that comment. So I think your first question is, you were told that this was new. So I've only been here a year, so I don't know a lot of the history. What I can tell you from my previous roles is that we're actually behind. One of the things, so I don't want to get into a big long story, but most of my hospital experience was at the Queensway Carleton in Ottawa, and I was out in the east at a smaller hospital before I came here. And more, what we're doing is now considered to be standard, where hospitals are to improve communication between hospitals. So in our case, we're partnering with sort of the hospitals in what would used to be the Southeast Health Integration Network. So Brockville, Kingston, Providence Care, Lennox, Addington, and Quinte, and working together to reduce the overall cost of this big project. Okay, we're behind. I think perhaps when this was contemplated in the late teens, I think is when it started being talked about, we might not have been as behind, but we've fallen behind. So we're just sort of starting this now. And so like when I was a VP at Queensway Carleton, as an example, I actually started a group that did exactly this, and I started it in 2009.
So started what though?
A collaboration to bring these clinical innovations. So we actually partnered with hospitals in Ottawa to do exactly what we're attempting here with this Core Capital campaign back in 2009, just to give you a sense of the timeline. So that was like the same type of thing where we brought in systems and technology to improve care. It took a little bit longer than what we are anticipating because we are a little bit ahead, but now it's very common practice, hospitals working together to standardize their care through these innovations. So it's not in every hospital in the province. I haven't surveyed them all, but it's very, very, very common, and we're actually the outlier and significantly behind.
What I meant though is that the municipalities like using taxpayer.
So that
sorry.
So I interpreted that as a second question.
Okay,
so I
sorry,
wanted to just So the first one was this. We were told this is new, and it isn't, at least now. So it's changed. And then with the levy, that's where the only thing I can say is like we'll work with you on however you want to message us. For us, we just need your support. And I think if it works better to say that it's a tax levy versus a grant, we're happy to work with you in supporting that. I think for us, we're just looking to the municipalities as a partner in the care for the community, and that's why we're here today. So I'm not an administrator, so I that's where I'd have to. I'd say let's partner and work together, and if there's a better way to do this, to get your support, we'll do whatever we can to get it. That's not an answer, but I'm also apolitical as a CEO. We'd have to work with all our municipalities and what they need.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't be more specific, but
No, it's fair.
okay.
Are there other hospitals like outside of the area that have funding coming in from municipalities?
I think so. To be honest, we haven't. So generally, I think the answer is yes, but it depends. Like, would they be? They might fund different aspects of different projects, but community fundraising is generally regarded to look at the whole community, not just grateful patients, but municipalities as well. But to be honest, like that's more of a general thing that I've learned as in my, sorry to the people at home. Everyone on the with headphones is cursing me. It's a standard practice to be able to approach all your potential sources of revenue. But being honest with you, to fund something like this, I couldn't tell you. But I think generally speaking, foundations generally look to all levels of government for funding wherever they can.
Okay, the 34,598, where did this number come from?
So I can bring I don't know the specific formula because it was developed I guess now almost 7-8 years ago. I can tell you it was based on a variety of factors like population, the utilization of the hospital in terms of the activity, and a sense for the overall size of the township in question, right? So, but I
don't want to use a huge township as land goes, but population,
that's right.
We're pretty low.
That's right. Yeah. So that's where I can follow up and provide the specific formula. It predates my my involvement, and it was the subject of a lot of discussion. But I can provide that after if that's acceptable.
And is this going to be a request that's done on an annual basis? Is this a one-time thing, or?
So our proposal is that this was originally set up to be a 10-year campaign, and it's what we were hoping. You know, when you look at the cost of the project, it's taking the project's going to be 2.5-3 years, and so we're looking to spread the recuperation of those costs over 10. So in some cases, some of the municipalities or counties have given multi-year commitments up front. Like I think it's Lanark, Leeds, Grenville gave us a 3-year term because they said, well, you don't have to come back every year. Just come back after, I think it expired last year. So we'll be back talking to them to get them to renew their commitment. For me, I want to work with all our municipal partners, whatever works. For me, it's also a big reason that I didn't just come and say with one slide is that we do see you as partners and stakeholders in the work that we do. So it is an opportunity for us to come and talk to you all and talk about the state of the nation as it pertains to the hospital, as well as talk about this. So I'm happy to come back anytime, but that's really up to you to discuss. If you do a 1-year commitment, then we'll request to come back the next year because in theory, I think we have 8 more years to go on the campaign before we feel that we've achieved our goal. We also recognize that this is not a small ask. This isn't the GTA. So I do recognize the size of the municipality and the budget, and it's not a insignificant amount. And I recognize that.
I was just going to ask, I believe, and I'm not sure you might know better, does Lanark not donate money?
The county does, yeah.
The county takes in. So I'd like to know how much the county gives.
$250,000.
They give $250,000
to the Fritz Falls.
365. That's what this year.
And then
100. I think it's 100,000
goes to the Elmont and
Carlton Place. Yeah.
Carlton Place. There's a split up.
Yeah, so 365.
Yeah, some of it goes. Yeah, exactly. Some of it goes to Dispersants Falls, and then 100,000 goes to.
Yeah, they added. I hope. Sorry, Lanark County, if you're listening. They added a little inflation on to pop it up a little bit.
Correct, yeah.
Our share is 150.
Yeah.
Before it's adjusted, that was the historical. That's the amount we requested. Yes.
So I was just saying that because as a township, we're contributing to Lanark County, so.
Yeah, the original ask was to all of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, but to all the municipalities, and then it went to the county to then lower the amount because our original ask was, I think it was like 50,000, and then when they went to the county then took on a chunk and then to lower the amount that would be on the municipal side.
Yeah.
As well.
So I think the goal was to try and make sure that we're spreading it out. Again, I do know that the municipalities within the county, there's an arrangement there, and that's why I'm glad you mentioned that there was an adjustment so that it sort of, again, the approach we're taking is that we're partners with all these groups and that we'd like everybody to participate if they can.
So I've always had the question about what is it that the foundation's doing for fundraising? Yep.
So the fund, and this goes to the point that you didn't, that I didn't answer in part of your question, which is what's the province's role in some of this? So the province, if I can just, because I didn't realize I didn't answer that quite correctly. So the province typically will fund operations. So with our MRI as an example, we've already been awarded the operational funding. So this would be to pay for the technicians and the cost of running the MRI, equipment, power, et cetera. It doesn't cover the cost of acquiring and installing the magnet. So that's where we rely on the foundation as an example. So they're going to be striking up a campaign around the MRI shortly. And then the foundation supplies money for clinical equipment at the hospital. And that's why, given the timing and the need, that's why we needed the participation of our municipal partners to supplement the foundation, because they have a pretty tall order to maintain about $1.5 million, depending on the year and how things, what we need, $1.5 million to $2 million in just clinical replacement. And on top of that, we have a 3-year campaign that's going to be coming up to support our MRI. So that's why that's when I say the support has never been more critical now, because we've hit that logjam of things where things are coming due, and we need to make sure that our hospital is relevant and provides the excellence in care that you and your community members deserve. But the only time, if I could just add, that the ministry will fund capital is typically when you have a large scale expansion of your facility. So in 2012, we completed an expansion and renovations of the Smith Falls campus, and the bricks and mortar was supported. But even in something like that, the capital, so the equipment, the new equipment that's needed to fit up that new hospital is a local share. So it needs to be generated by the community, including, basics, fancy stuff like CT scanner, to the humdrum stuff, which like desks and chairs and stuff like this. Well, if there's no more questions, I want to thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Good night.
So I did forget to mention at the start of our meeting that tonight is our first time to live stream. So if we lose connection, we'll get you back as soon as we can, but our mics are live through the whole thing, and fingers crossed.
Quick note for council members, Jeff, especially you, since you live there, kind of move back a little bit, if you can just
Get a little
get
closer.
a little bit closer, talk a little bit louder, that would be great.
Thanks.
So on to our report of municipal offers and the first officers, and the first one is Allison's regarding our final budget.
Thank you, Chair. So presented this evening is the 2023 final budget. There was some minor changes from the draft budget that was presented on December 20th from council. We did provide notice in the newspaper and on our website that we would be looking to adopt our budget this evening. The changes that were made are listed in my report. I'm not sure if council needs me to go through them all. We had very minor changes as far as that goes. So we are looking at, again, tax ratios may change slightly, but we're looking at about a 1.72% tax rate increase for 2023 for just the municipal portion. It is an overall levy of 4.52, but we have new assessments, so new homes coming on that equated to about a 2.8% increase. So we are looking at a pretty modest increase based on the current economic situation and environment that we're in. And so again, in here, we've based it off $100,000 assessment for the municipal portion only. County and school boards have not set their tax rates. So we don't know that portion. It would be $12.85 a year more. A $300,000 assessment, we're looking at $38.54 a year. So we feel it's reasonable, and water and sewer has not been passed or presented yet. We're waiting on Smith Falls to adopt theirs because we have the agreement with Smith Falls. So the recommendation for council is to adopt the 2023 budget, and we will post accordingly. Any questions? Oh, the only thing I'm going to say is that I will do up a final budget document, like a nice budget document, once county and school board are passed, and I can have everything in there that can be used for ratepayers, that really explains everything, breaks it out, and for council and everybody else. But I'll do that once we have everything together.
So
just to summarize from our draft one, this includes all our continued capital as well as putting money into reserves. So 1.72 has come in pretty good. So thank you to all of the staff. So,
It's pretty solid.
yeah, so moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Deputy Reeve Carroll, that council approve the 2023 final budget presented this date. All in favor? Carried.
We do have our budget meeting for the county too as well on this Friday. So hopefully we'll have that finalized as well by then.
And our next report of officers is again, Allison, for your 2023 salary grid.
Thank you, Chair. So this goes along kind of with the budget. I want to make very clear on this report that the salary grid itself is changing 6.9% with CPI based on our policy 3807/2021, but that it was approved for staff to get a 2% COLA, not 6.9. I just want to make that very clear, that staff is approved for a 2% increase, not 6.9% increase. And that's relative, as presented in the budget, that's relative to the other municipalities in that sense. So this is the pay grid that will go according with our policy to presented this evening.
Any questions? So moved by Deputy Reeve Carroll and seconded by Councillor Abbas that council approve the 2023 salary grid presented this date. All in favor? Next is our reports of committee of the whole, December 20, 2022. Moved by Councillor Abbas, seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council approve the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of December 20th, 2022 and approve the recommendations contained within. All in favor? And our Montague Recreation Culture Committee. So moved by Councillor Crabtree, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that council approve the minutes of the Montague Recreation Culture Committee meeting of October 25th, 2022 and approve the recommendations contained within. All in favor? We have no petitions, and we move on to our first bylaw. Sure.
So thank you, Chair. So the borrowing bylaw is a standard bylaw that we have. It's basically the township's overdraft in the event from collecting taxes into March. So it's kind of just that overdraft. To be honest, we don't generally use it, but all municipalities pass it in the event that we need to, depending on when capital bills come in and those type of things. We're sitting in a good financial position, but it's just a general bylaw. Again, it's like an overdraft for us. It's not any kind of long-term borrowing.
Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Deputy Reeve Carroll, that bylaw 3948/2023, being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing of money to meet current expenditures for the year, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? And our next bylaw.
Sure. Okay. So thank you, Chair. So the interim tax bylaw is a bylaw that establishes for us to put out our interim tax at the beginning of March, which will be due the first installment at the end of March, last business day of March. The second installment is the last day of June. So this allows us to do that and to collect interest on any overdue amounts of that interim tax bill, and then we'll bring back the final one later on in the year.
Moved by Deputy Reeve Carroll, seconded by Councillor Abbas, that bylaw 3949/2023, being a bylaw to establish the calculation and collection procedures to be implemented for the interim tax billing process, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? And next is our next bylaw. If there's anything, okay. So moved by Councillor Abbas, seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that bylaw 3950/2023, being a bylaw to adopt the 2023 municipal operating and capital budgets, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Okay.
So thank you, Chair. So this is a bylaw to update our bylaw from 2017, I believe, for council and local board remuneration. We're gonna bring this back on an annual basis, so it's always up to date as far as our local boards are supposed to change based on COLA along with staff, and council tends to move the same. So it is best practice to bring it back on an annual basis. You're gonna start seeing this annually with budget.
Moved by Councillor Crabtree, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that bylaw 3951, 2023, being a bylaw to establish remuneration and expenses for members of council and local boards, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? That's carried. Next is moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Deputy Reeve Carroll, that bylaw 3952, 2023, a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw governing the proceedings of council and committees, the conduct of its members, and the calling of meetings, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor?
Thank you, Chair. So just to comment on that, this is an amendment to include a land acknowledgement. So at our next meeting, that will be on our agendas. So that's what that procedural bylaw amendment was for.
It will be first on our agendas?
Yes. Yep. We'll start with our meetings. And is that also for committee? All meetings?
All committees.
Correct. Yep. Okay. So moved by Deputy Reeve Carroll, seconded by Councillor Abbas, that bylaw 3953, 2023, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Jackson Homes Inc., the owner of lands legally described as part of Lot 30, Concession 10, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, designated at Parts 1 and 2 on Plan 27R 11996, be read a first, second, and third time, and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Abbas, seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that bylaw 3954, 2023, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Jackson Homes Inc., the owner of lands legally described as part of lots 12 and 13, Concession 6, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, designated at Parts 4, 5, 7 through 10, 12, 16 through 18, and 23 through 28 on Plan 27R 11980, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed this 11th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Crabtree, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that bylaw 3955, 2023, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Jackson Homes Inc., the owner of lands legally described as part of lots 13, Concession 6, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, designated at Parts 19, 20, 29, and 30 on Plan 27R 11980, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed this 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Deputy Reeve Carroll, that bylaw 3956, 2023, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Jackson Homes Inc., the owner of lands legally described as part of Lot 12, Concession 6, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, designated at Parts 1, 2, 3, and 22 on Plan 27R 11980, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Reeve Carroll, seconded by Councillor Abbas, that bylaw 3957, 2023, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Jackson Homes Inc., the owner of lands legally described as part of lots 12 and 13, Concession 6, Township of Montague, County of Lanark, retained lands, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January, 2023. All in favor? Now we have no motion, notice of motion, correspondence, action items. So I think we've got some that we're moving forward. So the first one is resignation. Well, I think a few of us were going to mention it,
Do
but
we all, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
but go ahead.
Who moved it forward?
You'll talk first and then I'll read it, so go
Is that
ahead.
okay?
Yeah, yes, of course.
First of all, I want to make one quick comment. Thanks, Kirsten, for all those development, so Reeve could read through them. But it's also great that those things are happening too as well, and I know your hard work was behind those, which is fantastic. The other side too as well is that we have a resignation letter, obviously, from our bylaw officer, Laura Lawson. She's been around a good time, of my whole time on council. I know many years before that. She has been a very great asset for us as far as animal control and bylaw. It's nice to see that she looked to stay on for animal control, which is fantastic, but I'd like to thank her for her years of service too as well. I wish she was here so we could do that for her, because it's been obviously a great asset for us to have her for the many years that we did, so.
Moved by Councillor Abbas, seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council regretfully accept the resignation of the bylaw enforcement officer and that the clerk administrator bring forth a report with options to a meeting in February 2023. All in favor? Carried. The next is item 8E, been moved forward, Miracle Library Board minutes.
I did do that one too as
Yeah.
well, yeah, and I guess it was on a quick note, because in the minutes, obviously it's good for us to look over the minutes too as well, because we have been talking quite a lot about libraries.
Yeah.
But in their notes too as well, they did talk about an ask for an increase in their grant level too as well, and did you get something along those lines, or yeah, anyways?
So Chair, through you. So yes, so the ask that we have provided is more than what was actually asked from them. So the librarian had requested that potentially $500 in our budget. I think we allowed for $700 or $800 additional. So absolutely, I reached out to them prior to budget to make sure what was going to be happening there.
Perfect.
F, the financial indicator review for Township of Montague.
I did bring that up just more for the fact for Ali, maybe just to touch on it real quick.
Okay, Chair, through you. So the financial indicator review for kind of our new members as well. It's basically the report card that we get from the province based on our previous year's financials. So they kind of tell us whether we're doing a good job, bad job, or indifferent kind of thing. So overall, we're in a relatively good position. Our total outstanding taxes, our percentage is low. So that's good. They base off those things. Whenever you go through the actual list, the only thing that we're really sitting at a moderate is our closing amortization value as opposed to a percentage of our total capital assets. So basically that's saying that most of our assets have more of their life has been amortized, less life left than what we have new assets. So the province does normally reach out and say, what are the reasons behind this? Is there going to be some purchases happening? So we did inform them that absolutely we have some purchases. We have a fire truck on our list this year. We're talking about potentially new facilities, those type of things. So we're still sitting okay in that moderate level. Like we're not largely above, kind of provincial average, but that was the only area where we were moderate, and that's not uncommon for smaller municipalities, to be honest, when we do have a relatively smaller tax base. So that was really the only area that they asked questions, but really no concerns.
And I think it's a good speaks volume of over the years of trying to make sure that we have a good, our books are solid and good. And also there was a focus back 4 or 5 years ago too as well to start to make sure that we were getting our tax arrears in check and everything else, and that's really come down. And I know our staff have been working with our residents to make sure that we can have payment plans and everything else to make sure that we're up to date with that too as well. So it's nice to see that we have once again that our finances and everything else are in great shape. So thank you, Ellie.
Next one is our World Thinking Day.
That's me, I guess. Yeah. So this is about, so recently in the past couple of years, Girl Guides of Canada has really made significant efforts in diversity and inclusion. And so we're really, I'm a Girl Guide leader, in case there's people listening that don't know that. So we're really trying to be very careful about sort of the image that we present to the community, that we aren't involved in any sort of events that are faith-based. just in case there's someone on the outside looking to think about joining Girl Guides, and then they see us at a Christmas parade and like, oh, we can't join that because we're not Christian and that's a Christian organization, so we don't want to be presenting that image anymore. Which is great. It's a great move by Girl Guides, but it presents a lot of challenges for rural units where the only community events tend to be faith-based events. There's not a lot of non-faith-based events. So I've put forward a request to have the township office lit up blue on World Thinking Day, which is originally Lord Baden-Powell, the founder of Girl Guides and Boy Scouts, his birthday, and then it's morphed into this World Thinking Day, which is an event across WAGs, which is the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. So around the world, February 21st, they celebrate this day. Every year there's a theme. Last year, this year, and the next year, the theme is the environment, and then they're really focusing on like the female role in the environment and how Girl Guides can really like make a difference in climate change and things like that. So I thought this would be a great thing for the township to do to support our Girl Guide units in the area, give them something that they can promote and say, look, like we've done this, join Girl Guides, look what we're doing in the community, things like that. And then also I would like to sort of encourage other municipalities nearby to also do this on the same day.
Okay.
If you're amending the date, I think I just said the date wrong. It's February 22nd.
That's what it says on it.
Yeah, that's what
okay.
it is. Yeah, okay. I said February 21st. It's February 22nd. Yeah.
Okay. Just, we can circulate it to the other.
That's the other side too, those are very.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, Markville's going to be putting it forward as well, first week of February perhaps. And it was sent to Smith Falls, but I heard nothing back. So.
You can make sure that it goes to the county too as well. We can bring it up to the county too as well.
No. And I can even, there's a webpage for Ontario Council, which is Ontario Organized Sector of Girl Guides in Canada, where they are listing the places that are doing this, that are lighting up buildings. And so I can certainly send the communication in that Montague will be doing this. I know it's like Toronto and Kingston and all these places in the Montague Township, but it'll still be nice to be on
Or
there.
just important.
Yes.
I guess I'm gonna ask a silly question. Is the blue light? So where do we, like, is it where do you get the blue lights?
So if I may, Morgan, just for you, so we're thinking of getting basically a Christmas, like a floodlight,
Yeah.
the blue light,
And
and
the blue
putting
light,
it
right.
out potentially out at the sign, so we're hitting kind of our flag, like that area, is what we were thinking.
Great.
So moved by Councillor Crabtree, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that council support World Thinking Day initiative and request staff to purchase a blue floodlight and display on World Thinking Day, February 22nd, 2023 at the municipal office, and that council approves the clerk administrator to circulate the request out to Lanark County and Lanark County lower tier municipalities. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next one we had was red for OMAFRA.
I did bring that up real quick to see if Ali had anything to touch on as far as what we could maybe, if it's something that's in the works or the thought process, or.
So Chair, through you. So there are some initiative. This RED program is funding up to 50% or 30%, depending on what you're choosing. So I'd have to take a better look at it, to be honest, of exactly what might fit for us and potentially bring something back to council, just because it's really a small portion that they're going to fund of the program. Where in previous years, some of their stuff has been 100% or 80% funded. So, but yeah, we can take a look at it. Absolutely.
I'm curious with some of like our ideas of like training within, looking to see how we can do some more training for like building inspecting, because it talks about like investors to attract or retained and that kind of stuff. So I'm just, yeah, I'm sure you'll look at it too as well, but that's where kind of caught my eye, saying is that how we can kind of help with growing internally and everything else.
Yeah, so Chair, through you, absolutely, Deputy Reed, Carol, that would be the one area that I think would fit with us, because we've taken on that succession kind of planning and even doing some of the training with Public Works and things like that, that I think that if we were going to get that, even if it is only 50 or 30%, we're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
So we should apply for it and hope to get that. I think that would be the one area that would probably best fit us. But because of I think I would bring back something to council saying, are we in agreement with this?
So at this point in time, I'll see if there are any questions from our audience. Yes, Tom?
On your bylaw 3951/2023, under administration, line 8 or section 8, I would request council to change that one for remuneration for the people under clause 3 be paid basically in December of each year. I would like it to be changed, or council to think about changing it to be paid at the end of the month of any meetings that occurred during the month, rather than the people at the meetings have to wait up to 12 months to get paid for your attendance at the meetings.
Which section again?
Number 8. Under administration, number 8.
To be paid, this is in one installment in December of each year.
So if I can speak to that, I think as of most recently, we've been paying them after each month.
You did.
Yeah.
After I requested, you did, but the bylaw, I didn't know it was in the bylaw.
Yeah, so to be honest, from a treasurer perspective, it is easier for me to pay as the meetings happen from that perspective. So we have already passed the bylaw, so it's whether if council wants us to bring back an amendment, which I can bring to the next. It's a small change, but I would have to bring back an amended bylaw.
Let's do that. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody
Yeah,
did.
we're okay with that.
I have no
you're already
issues.
paying them out anyway.
I have no issues with that because we have been paying
Yeah.
as they've been happening. It's just like because the livestock valuers, in the same sense as we get paid, the treasurer releases payment to the livestock valuers as well. So it's not like they get held for the full year. So we're kind of working that way. So I have no issues changing the bylaw. I'll just bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay. And one other question, on your development agreements, where they're developing new lots, is there any way, I see no mention in there that you can okay a lot, but then when the person goes to build on it, they want a minor variance because their house is too big for the lot or too close to the lot lines? Could you not put in there that when you get a lot approved, your house has to, your building has to fit on the lot without a minor variance?
Why?
Kirsten, would you like to answer that or you want me to?
Let me just stand up here.
So generally speaking, when a new lot is created, it needs to be able to support the building of a structure on it. It's very uncommon that there would be a lot created that would not be able to do so. So for example, you'll see on some development agreements where we'll illustrate a building envelope that will demonstrate that a structure would be built in that location. It would be outside of setback areas and influence areas from natural heritage features.
Yeah, it's just, as in the past, there was one lot that had been approved, and then they wanted to get a variance to build a house on the property, which was too close, according to the bylaws, of the both sides. Like, they could have put a smaller house on it without a minor variance, but they were trying to put a larger house on than what the lot was big enough for. Like, should that not be covered in when a lot is created? You can't do that? I would have thought a minor variance, I've been on a committee for several years, is if there's a minor thing in a lot that's existing and you want to put a little addition on, you got to encroach a foot or two, to me, that's a minor variance. But not when you start out with a brand new lot and the plans for a house that's bigger than, that won't fit on the size of the lot. I think that should be included in when you're doing your development agreement somehow.
I've never seen that provision within a development agreement.
It just would simplify it.
Mhm.
Then you're not gonna have the property owner coming down and trying to change things and creating another minor variance when there shouldn't have been a minor variance allowed on a new property, I would think. Not for the first so many years, anyway.
So I'm not familiar with all of the circumstances of the property that you're referring to. But generally speaking, a new lot that's created for the purpose of building, a building lot for the construction of a residence or dwelling, should be able to support a dwelling that would not encroach into any of the yard setbacks.
Okay. thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry, I couldn't be clearer.
it's okay. And Bryce, do we have any questions? Ally?
None.
So moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Deputy Reeve Carroll, that bylaw 3958/2023, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 17th day of January 2023. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Carroll, seconded by Councillor Abbas, that council adjourn the regular meeting of January 17th, 2023 at 6:57 p.m. until February 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. or at the call of the chair. All in favor? That's carried. Just take a minute to switch. I didn't get it.
Welcome back, members of the public and people watching intently online. We're going to open this meeting. So the Committee of the Whole agenda dated January 17th, 2023 to be approved. Moved by Councillor Kenny and seconded by Reeve Jennings. All in favor? That's carried. Do we have any disclosures of interests at all? We have no delegations. And our first one is the report of the municipal officers, and I see Stephen walking up to the microphone, so take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Carroll. So the first report before you tonight is the 2022 waste survey results. So at your guys' first meeting, there was actually discussions about putting out a survey in regards to our waste services. The first question was worded if residents are currently satisfied with the current services provided, or alternatively, if they would be okay with a tax increase to provide more services. So we had 230 residents, 6% answer. SurveyMonkey was used, so there is a chance that people could potentially do the survey multiple times. So I just wanted to note that. But in talking to other municipal staff, they felt we actually got a pretty good turnout on our survey considering the size of our township. So 81% said they are satisfied with the services and they would not want to see a tax increase. We should have locked the question after that, but out of the 230, 217 that said they didn't want an increase still commented on the second question on what they'd want to see moving forward. So it kind of broke it out in the report. So the things that people have said they would like to see was compost and green bin pickup, followed by leaf yard, removing the large item pickup and return to large item drop off. 2 large item pickups per day was 4, and then additional services. Just quickly on the last one, that was kind of a comment section. Kind of got carried away with some of the questions. There was a lot of mixed reviews. One of the biggest things was hazardous waste. So I think maybe more things being published about the Carleton Place site when it's open. Some of the comments were that people would like to see us host a drop-off day for hazardous waste ourselves here. And then I did attach that to report so council can see some of the additional comments. I'll just quickly touch on some of the things. I did put it in the report, but compost green bin, obviously City of Ottawa, and the only one in Lanark County that does it is Town of Perth. They have their own dump site where they utilize that. I put in there, if council would like to explore it, I'm sure they would be open to taking on additional waste from us. There's a cost to that, and then obviously the pickup and everything like that. So there would be a follow-up report on that. Leaf and yard waste pickup, it's definitely possible. The biggest thing is getting rid of the yard waste when we bring it back here. Right now, currently that was done with drop-off day, and there's still material that's disposing in our backyard that hasn't been burned. And last time it was burnt, it burnt our coverall, the roof. So I mean, it's not ideal to do that. And then obviously the other option is to bring in something to mulch it up, and then residents can actually use that. But again, that's about a $5,000 to $10,000 cost. That has to be done every 18 months, no matter what, within our Ministry of Environment permit to do that. Number 3 was remove the large item pickup and return to large item. I was surprised to see this here because we had so many positive remarks made about the large item pickup. There was a lot of very positive comments on how accessible it was and everything like that. And then I did put in about the cost. So I mean, the last drop-off day we did, it ran around $3,500 was what we ran in the 6 years past. We had 12 residents show up to the last drop-off day, and during the pickup, where it is literally going to people's doorstep, the cost of that was actually $1,000 after everything was included. So I think that's pretty great service for taxpayers to have for $1,000 on the line. And then obviously number 4 was to add the extra pickup day. As stated, it would be $2,000. There's $4,000 in the budget, so that's kind of something that has been included. So it's a little disappointing to see that as one of the lower ranked options. I was kind of hoping that would have been higher with the new service, but yeah, this report's for information, and if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Steve. Does anybody have any questions or comments or
I think you did a great job.
points there?
Sorry, I have a question. I can't remember. Of the options,
Yes.
I know that there was remove large item pickup and return to large item drop off, and then there was 2 large item pickup days. But was there a way to just say, we're happy with the one, that's great, don't change it? No, there wasn't, was there?
Yeah, so that was just the first question. That would be kind of the status quo option. And that's what 81% of people did say, is that they're happy with what's there.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions at all? Or, I mean, I think it was a great idea. Surveys are always tough because, I mean, and it was a pretty decent amount we've seen to be turned out. I'd be interested to know as the time goes on, if any of those things we're able to do as far as composting and the leaf yard waste and all that kind of stuff. Like if we can strike an agreement with Beckwith maybe, or because right now in your reports is like our residents could bring a big load of stuff to Beckwith for $50, which seems reasonable. Is that reasonable? Maybe not. Maybe we could strike. Anyways, maybe there's discussion points we could have with our local municipalities to see if we could get something that might work out a little bit better. If not, I mean that's it is what it is. But I mean, at least if we try, then we might have an option. I mean, I echo you with the large item. I think the biggest thing is that it's a new service that people are just not quite aware of and familiar with. And I think as it goes on, I think we're going to see, obviously more and more. I mean, the large pickup was a huge success, and I think we're going to see more and more doing that. And it's almost a standard in every municipality out there. That's kind of one of the reasons why we did this too as well. So anyways, I think that was.
If I can, Chair, I would like to add one thing about the green bin. I kind of forgot to mention about, everybody in Lanark County is currently doing what Montague is. We do have composters for sale at cost. So whatever we can bring it in for, we're going to sell to our residents. And I mean, doing that, it does show in statistics it's about 25, anywhere to 50% less on waste that we could see, right? So I mean, encouraging people to move forward with yard waste, with the composters is huge, and anything we can do to help out and get more composters out there is definitely what we want to do to divert from our landfills.
We could also reduce the land size required for chickens, and that would certainly reduce our waste. Because compost can be chickens. Good idea. I have one more question though. Yep. Is it possible? I see that there's quite a few comments here about hazardous waste, like quite a few. And that wasn't an option in the rank of importance.
So through you, Chair, there was nothing included for hazardous waste. We don't really usually hear too much feedback from residents about hazardous waste. Usually there's a lot of people asking when they can use it, and then it's open from May long till September long. So we encourage obviously all our residents to do that. So that wasn't included in the initial one, but I mean, if council would like more information about something to do with hazardous waste, I'd be more than happy to do something with that.
I think I heard that a lot during the campaign period from people with hazardous waste, not having to drive all the way to Carleton Place.
And I think we do have sites on our website where you can go in and search what item you're trying to dispose of, and it will populate what stores. So say Home Hardware, for instance, you can take your paint cans there. There's different spots you can take your tires. I'm gonna have to drive a little bit farther, but there's spots for oil. It used to be Make the Drop. I'd have to check, I can send it out, but it is on our website. I confirmed after this report that it's on there. And residents go there, search it, what they want to get rid of, and it will give them the nearest location. So that's another option that residents can absolutely use as well.
Like private sort of disposal area.
Yeah, and that's all similar to the recycling that was enforced through the making people the producer responsibility. That's been brought in. Same as how we have the electronic bins there. Mm-hmm. It's through the same system.
Okay.
A lot of waste like that we wouldn't be able to take it in, right? Because there's all kinds of regulation. As much as we would love to be able to have it bin and collect it for people and bring it to Carleton Place ourselves, if that was a service, it wouldn't be one that we could even remotely offer. Am I correct? Is that because of the?
I would believe you're correct. Something we'd have to talk to Ministry of Environment about, but usually when you get into that, you're talking about more or less a transfer station, and there's a lot of regulations about that. So. And high cost.
A big sticking point where it'd be hard to implement something like that. It'd be great to offer that service, but trying to implement it might be impossible. Yeah, Ally.
Thank you, Chair. So, as the Public Works Manager stated, we don't currently have licensing to collect those kind of things. I know in other municipalities, sometimes they have a drop-off day where a certain organization comes in and they drop it off and take it, but we're talking potentially 10 to 20,000 per day for that option. Not saying it's not an option for council to discuss, but it is an expensive, household hazardous waste is an expensive discussion.
Do they have hazardous waste drop off in Smith Falls? No, they go to Carlton Place.
Someplace.
Places
Yeah,
to
so,
have-
so Lanark Highlands and Carleton Place, they do the two places for all of Lanark County. And I believe Lanark Highlands is open a little bit longer than the service we have, but Carleton Place is open for, 2/3 of the year, basically.
Does Kempville have hazardous waste?
I-
Like anywhere in North Carolina?
I cannot confirm on that, I'm not aware. I can check for sure.
We can do.
Yeah, I mean, if council wants me to explore some options, I'd be more than happy to kind of see what's out there. And I mean, I could always bring a report back if there's consensus for that. But
But if someplace local, like someplace closer, right? Like the part of the township that's close to Carlton Place, they can go to Carlton Place. But the part of the township that's an hour from Carlton Place, like they could go to Kempville or somewhere maybe near there that does it if they do it there.
the survey and then find out what we get.
So I'm just making sure here, we're gonna reach out to our neighboring municipalities and see if they also offer it and bring back something to council if they do, and potential discussions for that.
Perfect. Any other questions as far as that goes? No, okay, good. So moved by Reeve Jennings and seconded by Councillor Crabtree, that council accept the 2022 waste survey results report as information. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to waste stickers with Stephen again.
thank you. This report is for action on waste stickers. So we obviously have a new bylaw which we're following now with silver waste stickers. Throughout the process of changing waste stickers, it was a very, even went before my time, I believe, there was a lot of discussion on this. And one of the biggest things that was said about waste stickers is that people felt they had difficulties obtaining garbage tags because of our hours. A lot of people say they work the same hours, so it's difficult to get in here. So we have looked into a couple different options, and I included in the report about options that other municipalities are doing. And with the help of Councillor Kenny, she was able to contact a couple places in Merrickville to service that end of our township. So we have sourced two locations. So Mr. Gas, just basically on Union Street on 15. They have stated they would be more than happy to sell tags on behalf of Montague. And then Milano's in Merrickville, which if there wasn't the square, they would be part of Montague in Merrickville there. So, I mean, they are nearby as well. The only thing they asked in the report was just that they could kind of keep it outside of having to go through their register, which is a pretty reasonable ask. I think it's important to note that neither of these two businesses did ask for anything on behalf of Montague. They were more than happy to help out and just kind of do whatever they can to help the municipality. Staff has included a recommendation that they would see 50% of each trash tag they would retain. I think it's good to reward these businesses that are helping us out as freeing up some staff time and making it a more accessible service for all of our residents. The recommendation before you is one the dollars work out very similar to Smith Falls Independent. It's the same thing, so we'll give them a certain amount of tags, and then once they're running low, the inventory will collect the amount of money minus the 50%. Other places don't provide any money. Some provide a service fee, and then there's also there's an option in the discussion about mailing the tags out. So I kind of tried to include as much as I could for council to kind of dig through and see what would work best for Montague. But I have put forward the recommendation to sell them for $3 at Milano's and Mr. Gas, and that each of these locations would retain 50 cents for each tag.
So I think, just to clarify it, 50 cents.
Yeah.
50 cents, yeah,
Yes.
not percent. Yeah, just to clarify that for everybody out there, it'd be 50 cents for each tag. I mean, this is process we started a few years ago in order to make it a little bit simpler. I think we'll also see, I mean, the big complaint obviously is getting garbage tags. The nice thing is the majority of residents now won't need to worry about coming to get garbage tags or getting garbage tags because they're just going to put their, 1 or 2 bags out, up to 2 bags out. And then only the ones that maybe need to have more, or for the large item pickup, they'll be able to do it. So I think that's definitely going to see a lot less traffic in the office for that kind of stuff too as well. And it's definitely great to have it in 2 locations outside too as well. So on that note, does that open up any questions at all as far as that whole process we've been doing for the last few years? So,
Just to clarify too, just to remind that residents that still have those orange tags can use them up to January 1st, 2025.
lots of time for your extra bags, not for large item pickup. That's the other clarification.
That's
We
correct.
still need silver tags, but yeah, so for those extra bags, we still have that there too as well.
I also wanted to just put a comment out there for the public. It was just there was comments made on Montague Talks, and they were complaining about the whole the tag situation, about having to use tags, and so like this is a much better system that you guys have going. First of all, instead of getting 90 tags, you now get 104 containers and or bags, whichever way you want to look at it. You don't have to do anything for 2 containers and or bags, because it was amazing the amount of complaints that were just being generated by this whole system saying, well, no normal family can get by with 2 bags. It's 2 bags and or containers. So if you can put 4 bags in 2 containers, it's 4 bags. They don't care as long as it's 2 containers. So I just want to say that this is a great system, and I'm glad you guys are doing it. And I think this is great, and I'm hoping that we can continue this way.
Size restriction on the container and weight still apply,
Yes.
but yes, definitely the containers on wheels, the normal size, I don't know what
I think it's like 120 liter.
yeah. I mean, you can get a lot in those compared to a bag personally, I think, so. And it also keeps those critters out for people that put their garbage out the night before, so, yeah.
I think it's important to note that recycling and if you're to compost, you can reduce and you never have to come into the township office. So I mean,
Absolutely.
those are great things that you can do to help
And the
out.
critters will never eat your garbage if you compost too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big one. I mean, the composting obviously is a big part of the weight, because when you take that out, the weight. There was actually a couple notes, sorry to backtrack even about the recycling side of things. I mean, people were saying, there were some comments about we should have kept recycling together with cardboard and plastic. If we were to do that at the time, the recycling company was going to charge us an extra $300,000. So we could have done that and we could have kept it, but it would have been an 8% tax increase in order for us to keep recycling cardboard and plastic the same week, every single week. So that's why the council, we made that decision. Obviously, we were going to put an 8% tax rate increase to keep recycling on the same weeks. Just as a side note, because that just kind of popped in my head as we were talking about it. So, but also doing the composting. I mean, yeah, you'll have a pretty light bag and not a lot. So, no other questions? We're good. That's good. So moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas that council approve Mr. Gas and Milano's Pizzeria to sell waste tags on behalf of Montague Township for $3 per tag, and that each store retain 50 cents for each tag sold. All in favor? Thank you, folks. We're gonna move on to the next one is once again Steve again for Pinery Road.
Thank you, Deputy Carroll. This report's for information. This one stems back to early 2000s. I believe everybody can, I'm sure they've heard something about this corner in their upbringing at some point. When I'm going through all the documents, there's stuff back at like literally early 2000s where there's complaints and people talking about how we're going to do this. And I think we're very close to having this done. It's an exciting report to bring forward because it's something that we've really moved a long piece forward with this since 2020. And our staff has done a wonderful job with everything they've done to do with this corner. They worked pretty hard at it. We put in 40,000 last year, and not all that is going to be expensed for last year. We're very close to getting the land exchange agreement done. I was really hoping that we would have had that for you tonight for this report, but unfortunately, there's a couple small things that are ironing out, but hopefully that'll be in the next couple of meetings for you guys. You'll see it, and before it's signed and sealed, you'll have your chance, have your input on that. So I've attached kind of some of the pictures that I think really go a long way in explaining why this has to happen. So the first picture there is kind of approaching into this corner. So if anybody's not aware of where this corner is, it's just east of Hallbrook and Pinery intersection. That look there is basically what you see all along Pinery Road before we started doing any work. It's Old Forest Road, and the township did acquire the 66 feet. The sight lines now is quite remarkable to say what was there before. I know there's a lot of people that disagree with brushing, but I think these pictures show exactly why that operation has to occur. The safety that this has increased along the section of road, and also the assisting with our maintenance has made a huge difference as well when it comes to winter maintenance, and is also in the spring trying to keep our roads dried up as quick as we can. It's just kind of more or less for information, and then the design that Greer Galloway did for us also, it shows you kind of where our new realignment will go. So we're just going to be encroaching a little bit onto the neighboring landowner's property. We do have a road allowance through there, but in order to make that, it really wasn't possible to stay in our road allowance. So that's why we have to enter in an agreement. But I was kind of just excited to get the step done of having it designed, and now we're just waiting on everything with the agreement, and then we'll be moving forward hopefully with something for you for 2024 and 2024 budget time.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I mean, this is another big one, right? I mean, like we can see the differences as far as like that road really helps the drying out of the road and everything else. And it was something that didn't look pretty at the beginning, but we know it's going to grow back, which is the important part. But it's big, definitely making a big difference as far as what the road maintenance and the road the way it's going to be. And I think this realignment is also going to really help. It's something that once again has been discussed about for the last 20 years, and it's exciting that we're starting to implement it. It's great. So on that one, is there any questions or notes or points that anybody wants to chime in there? Yeah, for sure.
I'm just gonna say you're right, this has been going on for a long time. I was on council before when they tried to get things going. It's nice to see someone here like Steve and everybody in the staff in here helping it and getting this going. It's gonna be great for that.
Yes, and Pinery Road residents, because we're up to, I think we're up to 83 houses on that road now, so I think it's I could be off by one or two, but yeah. So I mean, it has grown, so it's nice that we continue to try to make it as drivable and passable as possible. So on that note, moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Kenny, the council received the Pinery Corner realignment update report for information. All in favor?
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Stephen, for all your reports. Great information. Moving on to the Easter event, and take it away, Ally.
Thank you, Chair. So in front of you this evening, at our previous meeting of the rec committee, which was at the beginning of the month, yeah. So there was a request for council to partake in the Easter breakfast similar to last year, with council cooking the breakfast and paying for the breakfast. The reason why it's coming forward before the minutes are approved is because they want to get it planned and get things organized and people booked in that type of thing for the event. So that's the request that's brought forward this evening for council.
Any questions? I'll go with you.
So confirming the money is in our budget again, like it was before, or something?
Yep.
And confirming that we have some cooks on council?
I'm gonna be there one way or the other, so
I'll be helping.
I can be there. I don't know if it's Sam Cook.
We need a replacement of the Sausage King, Ian Strait, who would make sure that all the sauces were cooked for us and everything else. So yeah, he was a champion at that. So it's a
The only discussion I would say too is I'd like to ask that the fee that was charged for the breakfast be increased a little bit to offset costs, because I mean, it was a great thing to do at $5 an adult and $2 at a child, but with food costs gone up the way it is, I think it would make sense that we do a reasonable increase. so that it's still affordable, but also not as steep on the taxpayers.
I mean, I agree. I think the level increase is the right move. So we all agree with that too as well. Yeah. Okay. Any other notes at all or questions? Good. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be another. I mean, last year was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, it blew us away. The amount of people that came and we lined up to the road. So yeah, I look forward to doing it again and working with the rec committee and everything else and make another awesome event. So, so moved by Councillor Kenny and seconded by Reeve Jennings that council provide notice to the Montague Recreation and Culture Committee that they will take part in the 2023 Easter breakfast event at Rosedale Hall on April 2nd, 2023, similar to that of 2022. All in favor? That's carried. The next one is once again for our donations, and that will be to Ali again. So,
Thank you, Chair. So this evening you will see, we passed our budget earlier on. In the budget, there was an amount for community donations. So we did post requesting applications. It closed November 30th of 2022 for the 2023 budget. We were provided, or we received 3 requests. We have received 1 additional request since the deadline, and I've received an email from another community group requesting information if they're still able to apply. And I did note that the deadline was November 30th of 2022, but it is a council policy, so ultimately it's up to council. But in front of you this evening are the 3 that we received. So we did have from the Forget Me Not Club in Montague, a $5,000 request to offset municipal tax bills and replace appliances as they're breaking down due to age. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lanark County, $1,500 to continue with current programs and the newly introduced teen mentoring in-school program at Montague Public School. And Fall for Merrickville for $5,000 for funds that will be used to cover the cost of OPP and Lanark paramedics for the annual event in October.
So on that note, I'll open it up for any comments or discussion at all. If anybody has anything to say, please, Maureen.
Is that typical practice for us to provide a donation to a commercial event? Is everyone familiar with Fall for Merrickville? Yes?
So I can.
Okay.
So they do meet the requirements as per the fund. This is the first time that we've got asked for a donation from Fall for Merrickville in that amount. I think for council's perspective, I'm going to speak on the Fall for Merrickville event that we do give other services kind of in lieu. Our fire department's there all day or for the event when it's happening. They request from us a special event permit so that they can get a liquor license that goes through the township. So that takes my admin time. Other municipalities charge a fee of $150 plus for that type of thing. We don't currently have a bylaw, but we go ahead and still request the same type of documents that would be required if we had a bylaw or not to make sure we're covered from a legal liability perspective. So I look after that and do all of those things. So we kind of in lieu do give donation in that sense that we don't charge a fee for doing those things. So I think that needs to be kind of mentioned in that side of things, that we do already kind of contribute to the event. I think it's, as far as I know, it is a big event, and council does approve on an annual basis that it is a kind of special event so they can get their liquor license. But this is kind of the first that we've been asked for something like this. Yes.
Do we know if they have asked Merrickville?
I am unsure.
So personally, I would not be inclined to give a commercial event $5,000. I would rather see it go to Big Brothers and Sisters. I'm sure they could find a way to spend it. Like, that's my personal opinion. Maybe if they would be interested in reducing that amount, but that's quite a bit of money for an event that is for people to sell things.
So we can choose at that point if we want to reduce
Okay.
that to, we could say whatever value we choose. So
It's a
that's-
great event, don't get me
that's very
wrong,
fun.
but
Yes,
it's certainly a commercial event, not a community one.
It does sound like a lot for something that's not on the far end of Montague. It's not like a Montague event. It's not a, hey, let's get the family and friends out together kind of here. It's way over there. It's
Well, it's in
fun.
Montague. It's
Yeah.
not way over there. We're in
No,
Montague.
no, but so
We are in Montague.
what I'm talking about is it's on the outs, like in comparison, like this is center Montague, so everything else is the farther polar end, right?
Yeah, we certainly do. I wouldn't want to say something like that because I wouldn't want people
No,
on the
no,
edges of the township to feel like they're any
I'm
less.
I'm not
but it's
making
a
them feel like
commercial event,
less.
yeah.
I'm saying that this is an event that's $5,000 that they're actually going to make money off of.
Yeah.
That the taxpayers are paying for, and that's all the taxpayers from this end of Montague all the way out to that end of Montague. Montague's a very big area. We talk about it a lot of times. That's what I'm meaning. I'm not meaning it in any negative fashion.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Okay, my suggestion, do we get any advertising or anything out of this at all? Or we get nothing?
Yeah, how would we-
So I think that in general, this event brings a lot of people into our area, right? So that's where it meets the criteria, is it doesn't always have to be a not-for-profit, because they're not, the other two are. But they bring an event to the municipality that is not a cost as far as to us. As like, it's not a recreation event that we would put on, it's not those things. So that's kind of where they hit that side of things, is that they're bringing awareness to the area and people to the area, kind of an economic development type thing. That's where they're fitting in. So absolutely correct, and it's a commercial event. It's not a not-for-profit. They do charge and make money. So that's the difference between them and the other two.
So what about if we made a $500 thing? Donation?
We can throw that on the floor if you like.
I'd like to throw that on the floor if it's something that's still involving people and it's from Montague that's in the area that's going to this. But certainly, I can't see $5,000 to commercial.
And as you said, Ali, you're already giving a lot. If our fire department's already going down there and doing stuff for them, and you're yourself going through and getting them the liquor license.
I don't get the liquor license. We bring, basically a report comes to council. I have a number of things that I would require from them, and documents and insurance and all those things that I give a list saying I need all of these things, and I follow up with them to make sure I have them. When I have those items, I bring a report to council saying it's a municipally significant event, so they can actually get a liquor license. They need that resolution from us.
So you do the work
to
for
get
them.
it. Well, they get everything. I give them a list of what I need. They have to get it to me, but I have to review it all, make sure it's all there, all those type of things. So that's where other municipalities, it's a fee to have a municipally significant event because it takes staff time outside of their regular duties.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of bring this back now, and just to see if we can get some consensus on the other ones, and then maybe also free up a little bit on the other side, because we do have another organization. Can we mention the names on that side or no? No, the other ones that we've talked with.
So I think my recommendation to council would be, before we speak of others who made applications, I think council needs to decide whether they're going to do notwithstanding their own policy and allow additional applications beyond the due date
Okay.
before we mention anybody.
Okay, so I'll bring that up. I know we had two different. I think there was one that was a little bit of confusion as far as when they should have and what they should have submitted, and they've submitted some things now. That could be that is a very good benefit to our community. And there's another one I'm not really overly aware of, but they've asked about it too as well. So I think if we're okay with sort of amending our time frame as we go forward, because right now what I'm hearing too as well is for the fall from Merrickville, our budget was 11.5, correct? So I mean, if we're looking at reducing, there will be some money still that's left there that we could allocate towards donations. So I'll throw that out there, but on the first part, maybe I'll go to for the Montague Forget Me Not. Are we all good for the $5,000 towards that organization? That does really a lot for our community with a lot of what they do with their events and their cooking and everything else. Are we good? Are we good for that? Okay, we're all in agreement. So that,
Just on a side note too on that one, I mean, because the one thing that's noted in that is that they are requesting the money, because part of it is they're paying taxes, so it's just giving it back as well.
Yes.
So, but yeah, no, that's good.
The second part, so we're all in agreement for that. So Ali, that's good
We
for
have
that.
consensus.
We have consensus for that, so we're good.
Yeah, fabulous that it's being held at the public school right in our township. So yeah, no, it's good.
Yep.
I mean, I have no problem donating, but in this case, this year's request is for something right in the school for Big Brothers.
Oh, okay, I was gonna move the Big
Yeah.
Brother, I was gonna move the Big Brothers to Big Sisters next. That was the thing.
Oh, sorry, I
So
thought
was
we'd
just
already gone to
forget-
that. Sorry.
Sorry, my bad. No,
My
no,
apologies.
it's all good. So yeah, Big Brothers
Yeah,
and
no.
Sisters were all good as far as that goes. I mean,
Yeah.
I see what the work they do too as
Yeah.
well. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. So yeah, we'll move on from that really quickly. I mean, Jim threw on the floor, like a $500 donation to the Fall for Merrickville. That would leave us $4,500 left over, which I think if there was a couple others that, you know, that could be benefits to our community, we could probably save for. So if, is everybody good for the $500 towards the Fall for Merrickville as a donation to, okay. So we're at that.
So just, sorry, Chair, just to verify, our donation line is 12.5.
12.5.
Yeah.
So we, okay.
So we're talking about the two groups that didn't get their names in in time.
Well,
I was gonna go to read Jennings real quick, just
so on the last one though, where we're going to make the 5,000, when was 500 of the 5,000, maybe we could follow up too to say, like, for a future application, to let us know if they're approaching other municipalities, because as was mentioned, I mean, it's Merrickville Wolford also benefits from the economic development. Do they make a donation? And just a little bit more information for us for the consideration. I mean, I recognize that costing for traffic is expensive, but at the same time, if we could get a little bit more information to know.
be good, yeah.
Perhaps an opportunity to have a table at Fall for Merrickville to promote Montague and trails in Montague and things like that. Things to do. They have a section that's not just vendors. They have a bit more of an information, Merrickville Preparatory and things like that. A table there. So.
Good, like that. And as far as looking at, I'm gonna say, we'll say late entries, are we good for that as a council to?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yep.
Being on council before, that kind of opens up a can of worms for you if you do it this year. How are you going to not do it next year? And that's the problem you get into when you have rules set down. Because I know before we had that happen, and it's pretty hard then the next year, something comes late, you have to turn around and, but whether it's even $50, it's just the idea of the principle, but that's my opinion.
And I think that's duly noted. The biggest thing, we always have discretion as council too as well to donate or to for that money to go there or not. So I mean, yes, but even if it does come in late, if someone else in the following year comes in late, we have the discretion to point to as well. And we also have funds left over too as well, would be my other point too as well, but it is a great point though, so. Councilor Jennings, or Reid Jennings, sorry.
Well, we've switched.
You're still from 40.
That's okay. The only thing I have is that I know that we've got a couple of late applicants now, but we might have some others out there that would say, gee, I missed the deadline, I should have put it in. So if we are thinking of extending, then I think it needs to be put back out again for others to do it. That's the only thing is that I would say is that, because some organizations may have said, even on December 1st, I missed it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we have publicized, it's been, you know, it's not the first year we do the donations. The deadline's the same as it has been every other year. So if you're going to give it to a couple of organizations, you need to look at all having a second kick at the can.
And maybe that's a great suggestion, because we do have funds left over in that line. So maybe reopening it back up to saying, hey, we have funds left over for a donation line, and that could be a great option. I think that's a great idea. Do we have maybe a deadline date that we could like middle of February or earlier? What do you think, Ellie?
For me, just because it's a busy time for me,
Yep.
with year end, maybe if we could even say March 31st to
Okay.
give people that opportunity for us to get it posted and get, you know, sometimes people need some time to think about some items as well. I think that absolutely it's the fair and equitable way to do it is to repost, and basically we'll say there's still funds available. So we're going to repost and see if there's any other applications. I will reach out to the ones that I've received emails from, and I will personally advise them saying we're going to repost. Here's the form, please fill it in and send back to us. But I have no issues. If I have consensus on that from council, I will proceed with a posting and bring back another report.
So this is just, sorry, this is just for the balance of the funding.
Just for the $5,500 balance.
Is it, we have consensus on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's good, we have consensus on that. Do we need to amend this at all?
Yeah, so you're gonna approve it, chart 1, we have to still go through chart 2.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the note.
But chart 1's going to be as amended, so instead of as listed, it's gonna be as amended.
Chart 1.
Perfect.
The next part is the cemeteries. Real quick, we give the money to the cemeteries because we do not want to take them over, plain and simple. So it's good for us to make sure that we continue to support them as well. So we're all in agreement with that.
So just a comment on that, they didn't ask for additional money, I just added some additional money, the funds were there, and I thought, you know what, everybody's dealing with the increased cost of fuel and all those things, and they do a great job looking after them, that we should maybe look at kind of increasing those a little bit every year to help assist them with those type of things.
So we gotta take them home.
Pretty much. The last part, I guess, is on chart 3 is the hospital too as well. Right now, this is up there at the $34,598. We don't have anything in our budget at all or proposed. So if we were to talk about this, it would go in, it would be taking it away from something else, or we'd be talking about where the funding is going to come from too as well, right? So yeah.
That's why I was asked in general today about it. I've had a lot of people come to me about this topic saying, since Lanark County pays, we all contribute to Lanark County, they didn't want to see it. What they had said. I'm just passing on the record.
So you're, yeah, so you're not in favor of
Myself,
of
I'm
doing it?
not in favor of putting more money in. That's my opinion.
That's fair. What's the easiest way to think? I guess as a whole, you know, right now it's kind of on the table as far as not contributing that portion to the hospital. So I guess those in favor of contributing to the hospital.
Can I ask? Luke?
Yes,
I
sure.
thought
Sorry,
when he
sure.
was here, he was going to send us some more information that was asked for. So do we make a decision, or do we wait to get some of the information back from him that was asked? And so we approve everything except for the hospital, and we wait to get more information back that was asked for.
Yeah, go
So
ahead,
just
sir.
for me, yeah, so on this report, on our resolution, I didn't include chart 3 because at the time of preparing this, I didn't have the ask for 2022. That's the 2021 amount that's been sitting on our action tracking that's been deferred. So if we're still just gonna leave it deferred, then we can just leave it deferred. That's why I didn't even put it on the resolution, because he was presenting this evening, so I didn't expect council to make a decision on it this evening because the presentation was just this evening.
Perfect.
So it's still deferred, and we are supposed to be getting information. So once we receive that, we will bring back a report for council to make a decision with potential options for funding. So the council can have that open discussion of potential possibilities. This evening, I'm not prepared to discuss that because the presentation was just this evening. Yeah.
So just to clarify, that means that like when we bring this back, you'll say like, we could take the money from this, we could use that, because these are, okay, yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so moved by Reeve Jennings and seconded by Councillor Crabtree. Councillor approved the donations in chart 1 as amended under 2023 amount proposed, and the council approved the cemetery donations in chart 2 as listed under 2023 amount proposed. All in favor? The big one, this is about our municipal complex, and Ali will be speaking about this.
Thank you, Chair. So this municipal complex, I did attach my report from back in May of 2022 that the previous council saw and provided approval to go ahead with the IBI group to prepare an RFP for us. So we were working with the IBI group kind of back and forth. They had not provided us any kind of documentation. They were trying to provide us a quote to do the RFP for us. And over a little bit of time, they decided that they potentially would also be interested in putting in an RFP for the actual, putting in pricing for the actual job. So they didn't want to provide us an RFP, so they didn't want to do that side of things. We got into elections and lame duck, so now we're here with a new council. We want to give you guys a little bit of time to get into your seats and get comfortable to be able to bring this forward. So I'm sure everybody has read the report and gone through it. The previous council had approved on your agenda package, it's page 92 for reference. I can pull it up on the screen too if council wishes for me to do so.
Would it be easy for people like watching or?
Can I share screen? Are they able to? Or you can share screen? Okay. Can you enable sharing, Grace? No, it says you've disabled it on me. Okay, so as stated, the previous council, we had discussed that to do a municipal complex all in one stage is not something that would be feasible or affordable for us in Montague Township. So we're looking at phases. Staff had worked together on this and noted that the public works and fire phase is the most urgent phase that we require. For several reasons. So the fire hall is too small for our vehicles. We have electrical issues. We're going to be, in our budget is for a new tanker. So we're going to need additional space. So we'd either be adding on to what we have. Public Works is in the same boat. It's an older building. There's issues. And we just purchased a brand new $600,000 grader that's going to sit outside all year. We use it for snow operations, so it has to warm up before we can use it and all those type of things. So with that being said, the phased approach that we had brought forward was section 1, 2, and 4 with an amendment. So on this screen, you'll see that section 4 here, the blue, is only a partial of a Public Works, keeping the old Public Works building and doing a full rehab and refurb on it. It was recommended that we go ahead and put out an RFP to involve that the blue section would be all of the blue and all of the gray. So it would include demolishing the old building and starting fresh for a number of reasons. That old building to refurb and redo it all is going to cost a lot of money. It's going to limit where we're going to be able to put our building because that's setting the position of where that building is going to be and adding on to it. So this would open up the space that we need for fire. It would open up the space we need for Public Works. And with that, it's going to open up some storage space here in the administration building to tie us over until we can do phase 2, which would be our admin building, our council chambers, those type of things. In the meantime, we're still applying for grants. We got brand new windows in here. We're going to try and get funding for this building to continue to update it with any kind of funding that becomes available. So windows that open now are a great asset. We're happy with that. So for me at this point in time, we're requesting that the current council, and it was in our budget of $150,000, that we go ahead as staff, prepare an RFP for engineering drawings for this building, and then be able to get pricing to be able to come back with council as far as what it's going to mean in the current market for that building and our potential options. I know back in May, I did present some financial options based on a levy increase, if we got a percentage of a grant, if we were using some of the reserves and those type of things. Again, it's high level because the market is changing. And by the time we get to this, it could change. Hopefully interest rates go down, to be honest, but we don't know what's going to happen there. But I think that we have included in the budget also some funds, and we noted during budget that if we're not going to move this way, we need to add on to both public works and fire. So we're going to be patching on to old buildings, or we move forward with the new building. So this right now is not council making the decision to say, yes, we're digging ground. This is to go ahead with the RFP and start that process.
Thanks, Ally. I mean, great information again. I think this is it's a lot of information, something we've been working on for a couple of years, obviously. But we also know that our buildings have reached their life. So it's good to start the process. And on that note, I'll gladly open it up to any questions or comments. Yes, Jim.
Just what I talked about before, this is just getting a rough idea. We'll go ahead and see what the building's gonna cost, but we still will have at a certain point, certain things we can mention what we want in the building. Now, I'm referring to roof and certain things like that, because under my 50 years of doing construction, when you tend to, I know the gentleman that usually gets it is going to phone around and get all the prices of the plumbers, the electricians, everything, and he's going to take the least amount to get so he can make more money. So I mean, it's important we put the proper roof and a few things on the building if it goes that far. That was my only concern. So I'm happy if that's what can be talked about later.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is to get the RFP for our drawings and get those things done. Because really, in this sense, whenever it comes to grants and funding, I need those drawings and that portion done to say we're serious about this, to provide in my applications, because we are really hoping that we're going to be able to get some kind of funding to help offset this. So this is moving in that direction, and but yes, council will have say on a good portion of what's happening, obviously. So this is just the starting. Yeah.
I think my comment then is probably in line, like in the same kind of vein, because in this report, I did notice that I have a few concerns. We're talking about no need for barrier-free accessibility in Fire Hall Public Works building. Okay.
No, so our buildings are going to be all accessible as far as that goes. So that was all done through a grant for Green Fund. So basically energy savings, all those type of things. So we have every ability to change, and we will make sure that they are all accessible and all those type of things. So again, council will be involved. This is just to go to RFP to get pricing for engineers and drawings. That report will come back to council still for approval, and then getting that done. So council will be involved in the drawing process along with staff as well. So it'll be a team project.
It'll be a big one for sure, for all of us. And I think that another part of it was like this was like the key on Ally said, like, this is for the green side of it. So there's opportunities from this to get more grants too as well, because of the green side of it too as well. So we went this direction to go to the next direction. It's all about seeing how we can obviously do it in the right steps, and also get as much amount of grant funding and everything else to get it as supported the best as possible to build it. So any other questions or comments? Or great.
Moving on.
We're moving on. This is fantastic. I thought we were going to be a late night.
No, I
tonight.
meant on this.
Oh.
Moving on.
And we're moving along on this too as well. Yeah, so it's fantastic. So so this was moved by Councillor Crabtree and seconded by Councillor Abbas. The council approves staff prepare an RFP to be inclusive of option 3 presented at the May 31st, 2022 special council meeting as amended, to include the removal of the existing public works garage and include all new public works garage, and that pricing be brought back to council for final approval. All in favor? Carried. Unanimous. Let's do it. So before I adjourn, I would like to, we have no more reports of committees, petitions, motion notice of motion, and unfinished business. So if we have any questions at all from the Tom, that would be
Not directly related to this meeting, but you were talking about realignment on Churchill Road. What, is there any follow-up on on you're talking about Pinery Road. Birch Hill Road, council, quite a few years ago, before this staff come in, before CAO come in, before our roads manager came in, they allotted, they got some land, they got the right of way for straightening that one bend in Birch Hill. Why did it fall off the map?
So I like the one point out of the gates. It's on my list for sure. Pinery Road was on my list, McGuire Road was on my list, Birch Hill Road, and I didn't have for myself anyways, I did not have a list of this is what's the most priority was. But we've knocked off 2 of those out of the 3 to the big realignments. And I'd like to think that we're gonna continue to talk about Birch Hill too as well. But I will loop Steve into that too as well if you would like to. Or if it's maybe anyway, I'll loop in Steve if he wants to have a comment on it.
Yeah, I think what you said kind of capsizes the whole thing there. Obviously, there's a couple other, that's obviously a very high priority as well. The other 2 locations that we address right now are kind of, there has been businesses added. There is a higher risk to probably add those 2 locations. If we had all the money in the world, we'd absolutely do it every year. I think long term is definitely something we will address, but it's just a matter of getting those started, getting those finished before we jump into additional projects and get back in the same problem where a lot of unfinished projects. I think that would be my.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think that's the biggest one is we're trying to address these things that have been coming up for the last 20 years. I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job at trying to address them in the last 3 years, really, when we've really been hammering away at it to start the process. So I'm glad that going into this next phase that we're moving forward on some of those already. So that's a very valid and good point.
Yeah, just as the township has spent its money, a lot of time on it, and money, they got the plans, changed the road allowance, made deals with the property owners and all that. And there was a clear cut through there. I see Hydro's put their line through it a few years back. And the township just seemed to have dropped it, but I know all the staff has changed, all the councilors have changed. I'm not sure if Jim was here at the time or
I was here when we were doing.
when it was approved. That would be the only one because everybody else is new since then. And it's, I don't want the township to lose the money they've invested in that when it was a bad road. And the roads committee at the time had brought forward that turn because there was quite a few accidents in that ditch at that time. Don't know if people are getting better drivers on that road anymore or not. but
Those
there used to be a lot.
S-curves help us keep the speed down on that road.
But yeah, no, Tom, I think it's a great point. I think, like, as I said, like we're, just like McGuire, just like Pinery, which has been talked about for so long, it's great that we're starting to actually do something about them. So that's a great point. I'm glad you bring it up because it's one that it's also on that radar, and it has been. We discussed it too as well. But I mean, we don't have all the money in the world, as you know. So it's we're chipping away at it. So it's a great question.
Yeah, well, Pinery has definitely expanded. A lot more people out there. It's a higher priority than Birch Hill, I think, because there's a few new people on Birch Hill, but not as many as Pinery. So, but I just don't want it forgot, that's all.
It's in the list too as well, so it's in the discussion, so that's
Don't
great.
worry, I won't forget Virgil.
That's any other questions or, that's good. That's it?
That's it.
Okay, good. Online and all that kind of fun stuff? Nope. We got nothing else? Great, folks. That's, I really thought we were gonna be going until 10 o'clock tonight, so this is nice. So, on that note, moved by Councillor Abbas and seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the Committee of the Whole meeting on January 17th, 2023 now be adjourned at 8:01 p.m. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone, once again, and thank you for everybody that's watching online. Tom, for his great question.